Hello, I'm Richard Blumenthal, your United States Senator. Really proud and excited to help celebrate 35 years of inspiring and extraordinary service by LISC Connecticut. In these 35 years, you've provided some $85 million for 4,500 units, but you've also been a force multiplier for housing and financial opportunity, working with other organizations like the Mutual Housing Association of Hartford. Your financial opportunity centers have grown wealth and income for families. You have helped young people break barriers and realize dreams. And now, with a new challenge of pandemic-related housing instability, you are forging new ties and providing additional services. We need to be very clear-eyed. Housing instability and the pandemic fall disproportionately on communities of color. We're talking about a movement for racial justice, not only in policing or healthcare, but also in housing. And your role in providing more equity and justice is absolutely invaluable. I will continue to work and fight for HUD Section 4 funding that provides support for your critical activities, and I will celebrate and praise what you do all around the state and indeed here in Washington, D.C. Thank you to all of your leadership over these 35 years, to all of your volunteers, staff, and supporters, because you are truly making a difference for housing, for financial and other forms of equity and justice in our great state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for joining Lisk today to help us celebrate 35 years of impact across Connecticut. I'm Jim Haran, Executive Director of LISC Connecticut. In the words of Senator Richard Blumenthal, the inspiring and extraordinary work of LISC is the result of the exemplary partnerships we have cultivated across the state. And we're honored to share a few of their stories with you here this morning. I was attracted to come to LISC 2 years ago because I knew it brought together smart people and strong local partnerships with deep resources and broad expertise at the national level. At LISC, we are revitalizing neighborhoods and creating opportunities for residents by investing in initiatives that empower people, transform places, support local economies, and foster leadership and innovation. Earlier this year, the Hartford and Connecticut statewide LISC program offices merged to form a new single program, LISC Connecticut. Even though we no longer have the word Hartford in our name, our commitment to the capital city remains the same. To recognize the 35-year history of this program and our work in Hartford, we're proud to honor a few of our many partners in Hartford who have helped make this impact possible and continue to transform communities and lives. We're also going to discuss this morning where we are now, in the midst of a pandemic and a social justice movement that is exposing structural racism and its impacts, and how we can work together to build justice and equity, with LISC President and CEO Maurice Jones and Hartford Foundation for Public Giving President Jay Williams. First, I'd like to take a minute to thank our event sponsors for their support: M&T Bank, Key Bank, People's United Bank, Citizens Bank, TD Bank, Liberty Bank, and the Community Preservation Corporation. I'd also like to thank the many LISC funders that make our work possible, including the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, which provides critical Section 4 grant dollars to build the capacity of CDCs. Grant dollars that our elected representatives, like Senator Blumenthal, advocate strongly for each year. I'd also like to thank the incredible LISC Connecticut staff, including my predecessors and those who've recently left LISC, and my colleagues, Farhana Arif, Angela Berry, Casey LaFlamme, Debbie Martin, Sean McLaren, and Matt Straub. To help honor our partners this morning, I'm joined by LISC Connecticut's local advisory committee co-chairs, Diane Smith, and Trejzek. They lead a group of 20 thoughtful and committed volunteers who help guide our work and maximize Lisk's impact. Even though it's disappointing we cannot be together in person, I'm so pleased you've decided to join us today. Grab your coffee or your tea and get ready to celebrate our amazing honorees. If you have a message for them that you'd like to share, please send it to us via chat and we will share it with the honorees after the event. Now, to get us started, please welcome Diane Smith.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning. Thank you all for being here with us to celebrate LISC Connecticut and our extraordinary honorees. I'm Diane Smith, co-chair of the Local Advisory Committee for LISC Connecticut. I've had the pleasure of working with Lisk for over 20 years, and during this time, I've been so proud of the transformative impact Lisk has had on so many communities here in our state. Since Lisk first came to Hartford in 1984, it has invested over $81 million in communities across Connecticut. This investment has helped build over 4,000 units of affordable housing, strengthen the community development sector, and forged partnerships to help build equitable places of opportunity. These local partnerships are at the core of what Lisk does. In January 2020, the Hartford and Connecticut statewide programs officially merged to form a single Lisk program. This morning, we're excited to honor a few of our outstanding partners from our 35 years in Hartford. Here to introduce our first honoree is my local advisory committee colleague, Trejzek.
Thank you, Diane. I'm Trejzek, co-chair of the Local Advisory Committee. Like Diane, I am so happy to be with you all this morning, sharing the work of our incredible partners that we have gathered together to honor today, and Lisk's work in Hartford and Connecticut. When Lisk first came to Hartford just over 35 years ago, it was at the invitation of local government and several funding partners. One of those donors, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, has remained a stalwart contributor and thought partner for Lisk's work in the capital city and greater Hartford region, including support for Lisk's operations, operating funds for community development corporations through the Hartford Neighborhood Development Support Collaborative, and initiatives like Building for Health, where Lisk is collaborating with Connecticut Children's and utility companies. On behalf of Lisk, I am pleased to introduce our champion foundation partner, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. To tell us more about the foundation's work, please welcome President Jay Williams.
Community foundations, in our opinion, have a unique and important role in the fact that we are geographically based. We exist to serve the well-being of the residents and the stakeholders within our community. We're able to do that because we've been afforded the resources by donors from many decades past, with the expectation that we would be a convener, a capacity builder, that we are always going to focus on the needs of the community in a very unique way. Specifically as we've been talking about these disparities, as we've been talking about these inequities, the fact that there is a significant amount of talent in the community on the ground. The Community Foundation can serve as a constant reminder for those who are investing in a community about the need to be inclusive, a constant reminder for those that a rising tide doesn't necessarily raise all boats if we've got parts of the community that have been historically disenfranchised and disconnected, but in a way that, if brought into the conversation, provides significant benefit to the entire region. The data has shown that health and housing are very much connected, to the extent of individuals and families in low-income populations are often forced to accept housing that is not necessarily conducive to better health outcomes. Sometimes the issue is lead or mold or asbestos. So to the extent that the housing and the quality of housing has a potentially detrimental impact on things like hypertension, asthma, and other social determinants of health, we think that our investment in programs that understand, acknowledge, and seek to improve the connection between health and housing is an important part of our priority. Lisk brings a level of expertise and technical knowledge to community and economic development that the foundation does not possess and would be costly for us to try to acquire. when it comes to community and economic development, the depth of experience that they have, their ability to bring best practices from across the nation to share with the nonprofit organizations that are engaged in that activity here in Hartford and the greater Hartford region is invaluable. So while we certainly engage and build capacity with nonprofits, when it comes to community and economic development, having LISC as a partner has been an invaluable experience. When you think about the most challenged areas of the city of Hartford or our greater Hartford region, those populations are often the most overlooked, underserved, and vulnerable. So the fact that LISC has a strong concentration and relationship within those communities aligns very nicely with our strategic focus.
Hi, I'm Jay Williams, President and CEO of the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. It is an honor to be here virtually with all of you, celebrating the past 35 years of LISC work in Connecticut. While we wish we could be together in person as we had planned back in March, we all know that the world has changed immensely since then. Both the public health crisis created by COVID-19 and our country's collective reawakening to the harsh realities of structural racism have made our collective work together more important than ever before. LISC and the Hartford Foundation have recognized for decades that the future prosperity of our state and our country lies in creating opportunity for all people to thrive, regardless of race, ethnicity, income, or the zip code in which one lives. The events of the past several months must only serve to strengthen our resolve to build more inclusive communities and create pathways to opportunity for all of our residents. We are proud to have been a founding partner in bringing LISC to Hartford. The motivations for doing so were numerous then and all ring true to this day. LISC brought with it significant national resources, innovative tools and initiatives, and could help elevate the work of community development sector locally. Furthermore, LISC presence gave clear pathways for local banks and corporations to invest in neighborhood revitalization. Through our partnership, we've strengthened our local community development corporations, leveraged millions of dollars in investment in affordable housing throughout the region, and more recently, lifted up the strong connections between housing and community health. The Hartford Foundation has been able to rely on LISC's depth of knowledge and expertise in community development finance for the past 35 years and looks forward to our continued work together given the significant challenges continuing to face our community. Please continue to stay safe and stay well.
Thank you, Jay. Your leadership at the Hartford Foundation is having a tremendous impact across Greater Hartford, and I thank you for the Foundation's steadfast support of LISC. Our next honoree has been a catalyst for change in Hartford since its creation in 2012. The Capital Region Development Authority was established to stimulate economic development and new investment in the capital region, as well as expand residential housing development to enhance economic and cultural vitality in the area. In its work, CRDA has backed more than 1,500 units of housing that are now transforming downtown Hartford and is now extending its reach to support critical affordable housing developments and other investments in neighborhoods across the city. On behalf of LISC, I am pleased to introduce our champion partner, public partner, CRDA. Here to tell us more about its work is its Executive Director, Mike Freemuth.
Our task is to implement, to carry out projects, to find a way to make them work, to get to a yes as opposed to a no. So no two of our projects are the same. No two structures look alike. No two people are treated equally, but that's by design. We try to make the best investment, the most efficient way to carry the project to completion. It may require deeper digging in pockets than some people want, and it may require us to go deeper in times. But it's a matter of a deal-by-deal, site-specific, need-specific design. We're developing the Swift factory deal in the north end, along with others, of course, whose intent is to develop new opportunities in that neighborhood, and primarily in the Promise Zone. Other initiatives are on Albany Avenue, where we're working with neighborhood groups to rebuild commercial enterprises basically on top of old land that has been lying fallow for a long time. There are two initiatives underway there. And as the city brings things forward in new neighborhoods like Parkville, we'll be exploring those opportunities as well. The importance of LISC in Hartford is that it understands Hartford. It's difficult to do that from a central office in New York or wherever And it also helps link the neighborhood folks, but also the corporate community to a common mission. So that's a function that LISC can bring to the table. We're fortunate in that they're in Hartford. I'm fortunate that I've worked with LISC for many years in many cities. And I always felt that having them on the street was immeasurable to making projects work. There's a public mission, and the public mission is bigger than the deal, bigger than the developer, bigger than the agency, that it is got a goals outside of the box. You have to be able to have goals that are within reach. And what CRDA does is it defines them very tightly so that they're touchable and reachable. And that's what keeps you going. If you make it too big, if you deal in master plans and great pursuits and the vision thing, that's great for a planner, someone who maybe is more academically oriented. I'm a nuts and bolts person. There are architects and there are engineers. There's car designers and there's mechanics. We're more on the engineer and mechanic side, is to figure out how we can get to the finish line, how we can get a deal done. That's the challenge. And you wake up at the end of the day and you can touch it. So they're manageable goals, they're tangible outcomes, and they're just a German stubbornness that inside my bones. We're just going to get these things done.
Thank you again to CRDA and Mike for your leadership. Public and private partnerships play such a critical role in development. As Connecticut looks ahead to recovery beyond COVID, these partnerships will be even more important. Our next honoree has been at the forefront of community revitalization in Hartford since 1988. Today, the Mutual Housing Association of Greater Hartford provides homes for almost 500 households in 6 towns in Greater Hartford. Their multi-phase development, Park Terrace, is an example of revitalizing formerly vacant and abandoned buildings while preserving community character to create new opportunities for affordable housing and the residents who live there. On behalf of Lisk, I am pleased to introduce our champion neighborhood revitalization partner, Mutual Housing Association of Greater Hartford. To tell us more about Mutual's work, please welcome Executive Director Kathy Mckinnon.
When I joined Mutual Housing, there was one other employee and me. So it was a small organization. We've got 28 employees now, so it's grown a little bit in the last 28 years. But it was a great challenge when I joined. We had one property. We've got 14 now. Housing brings a lot of different agencies together, and when you're in housing, you're involved in so many aspects of people's lives, and I think that's what makes it fulfilling and also challenging. We develop housing, so going through picking sites and putting together development budgets and raising the money and seeing projects through construction is one set of challenges. And then we're also in the property management business, so we lease up the apartments and then are involved in people's lives. As a landlord, for better or worse, you're involved in people's lives. A woman who lived in our Park Terrace development, who moved in there, recent single parent, and she stayed there because she was able to send her child to college. And she, by paying a lower rent, she had a little more money and was able to help her daughter get through college. Once her daughter graduated from college, she ended up going to college herself and went all the way through, got a master's degree, and then bought her first home. So those are the kinds of things where you can declare success. There's always room for improvement, of course. I I would like to see more private development done in the neighborhood. We've acquired a lot of property along Poe Park and on Zion Street in Frog Hollow. And one of the things that was really surprising to me was when I looked at maps of crime statistics. And when we looked at all of the properties that Mutual Housing owned, there were no crime incidents. It was stunning. Our apartments usually rent for anywhere from $300 to $500 below market. So I think about the choices that people would make if they had to pay an extra $300 or $500 a month for rent. What kind of choices would they make about their health? What kind of choices would they make about their children? So I think that we have the ability to impact our residents every month.
On behalf of the Mutual Housing Association of Greater Hartford, thank you to Lisk, not just for honoring our work, but for the more than 3 decades of partnering with Mutual Housing. Through your grants, loans, investments, and technical support, we have significantly and positively impacted the lives of thousands of Greater Hartford residents. Now more than ever, we need community development corporations that not only build housing projects, but create opportunity and stability for neighborhoods. During these last few months, Mutual Housing has focused on keeping our residents safe and keeping them in their homes. We've become experts in PPE, and we've raised more than $130,000 in rent bank funds to assist residents to get through this crisis. We've provided financial counseling to make sure our families access the resources they need. This is the power of community development. We are all navigating uncharted waters right now, and it is so important to have partners who are adaptable and creative. We are fortunate to have such a partner in Lisk. Thank you from the entire Mutual Housing team, and congratulations on your 35th anniversary.
Park Terrace is an outstanding example of a CDC creating development that revitalizes a neighborhood and fills a critical need. Thank you for your leadership, Kathy. I am honored to introduce this morning's final honoree. It's true what they say, we've saved the best for last. For more than 50 years, Bernadine Silvers has been a force of change in her neighborhood in the Sheldon Charter Oak neighborhood, including its decades of leadership in its neighborhood revitalization zone, the coalition to strengthen Sheldon Charter Oak neighborhood. She has been a tireless advocate to ensure Sheldon Charter Oak has become a diverse neighborhood of choice. Her service has included being the director of the Community Center with the Martin Luther King Development and currently as the community liaison for CDC Sheldon Oak Central. On behalf of Lisk, I am pleased to announce our Champion Community Leader honoree, Bernadine Silvers.
I moved to the Sheldon Charter Oak neighborhood in Sheldon Oak Co-op. I will be 50 years ago in June. And so I always knew that Sheldon Oak built Sheldon Oak Central built the Sheldon Oak Co-op. So I've always known about them. And about 23 years ago, I was asked to help them open a community center at Martin Luther King. And I did that, but prior to that, they worked with me on an organization called the Coalition to Strengthen the Sheldon Charter Oak Neighborhood. We became associates through that in building the community. Sheldon Oak Center is just a part of the community. It's a very important part of the community because it helped to build the standard for what our community would look like, what kind of people would live here, what kind of housing would be here, what kind of amenities would be in our housing here. And in recognizing that I lived at 52P South Prospect Street, that I could not do what I wanted to do alone. I had to look out into the community for other, support and other assistance. And Sheldon Oak Central helped me to do that. One of the things Sheldon Oak Co-op residents did was stop the developer from knocking it down. With the help of other people, with Syscon, with Sheldon Oak Central. That was a very important thing. That was a community piece. I want a more diverse economic community. So we and others are planning to build developments that will bring in different incomes of people, because diversity is better than non-diversity. But I want to make sure that the people who live here now that are lower income or what do they call them? People who are workforce people, that they are still able to be here. I'm interested in the community finishing the various developments that we've started or want to finish. I want the community become more dense with more people who understand and know this community and want to be here, and to want to contribute to its growth. I'm looking for existing people who are in the community to come out of their houses and come out to the various meetings, like the neighborhood revitalization zone, better known as an NRZ, and begin to participate in the future of the community. Many of us are aging in place, and we really need some younger, newer blood, as well as those that are here now that are vested in the community. We're an organization that did strategic planning for this particular community, and as a result of the work that we did, including doing a master plan, we were able to have our plan included in the city's master plan at the time that it was done. And so whenever any developer came into this community or thought about doing anything in the community, they were directed by the planning department at the time to come to us. Without Sheldon Oak Central, our community could not be as successful as it is, because they invested long before anyone else knew about us. They felt that this was a worthwhile area to invest in, and they did so, and they put their money where their mouth was. They put all of their energy where it had to go, and because of them, all of the things that you see happening in the neighborhood now, nonprofits have to struggle in order to succeed, in order to do their mission, in order to help to make things better according to their plans. And without Lisk, I have seen that organizations, Sheldon Oak Central and other CDCs, have been successful because of the work that Lisk does with them. And I know that Sheldon Oak Central would not be as successful as it is without them.
Thank you again for joining us this morning to celebrate Lisk, our outstanding partners, and 35 years of transformative community impact across Connecticut. Next up, we're pleased to be joined this morning by Lisk President and CEO Maurice Jones and Hartford Foundation for Public Giving President Jay Williams for a discussion about the community development sector and centering racial equity to build inclusive communities of opportunity, particularly as communities recover from COVID. If you have a question for Maurice and Jay, I encourage you to share them through the chat feature. Today's moderator for this discussion is LISC Connecticut's Executive Director, Jim Haran.